Okay, welcome everyone on this special online conversation hosted by Move into the Future and the Wize Move Society, the online community for the over 50 generation. The Wize generation is growing rapidly and they are living longer, are longer healthy and active, and are better educated than ever. There are many reasons why this generation should play a significant role in the economy and in society a lot longer than they expected when they started their career. So we believe that the 50+ generation has a significant role to play in the creation of the future. We just need to tap into their knowledge, their experience, and their wisdom. So with these Tuesday live sessions, we aim to give you a glimpse of what is happening online on the Wize Move Society, to share a bit about both the challenges and the opportunities that the 50+ generation is facing, as well as how the members of the Wize Move community work together to create the solutions and play an active role in society and in the economy. We're very clear that we're not on our way out, but we're part of the future. For those who join us on Zoom, we love to contribute to the conversation. So if you want to do so, please show yourself on camera. If you do not want to be seen, share your comments and questions in the chat. If you've joined us on Facebook, well, welcome everyone. Please share your feedback and questions in the comments below. My name is Ingun. I'm the founder of Move into the Future and the creator of the Wize Move Society. I'm here today, as always, with my co-host, Dr. Tatiana, Rowson, and our guests of this week, Audry Bron and Dr. Aart Bontekoning. Together, we will address the topic on how to work and thrive in a multi-generational workspace. Audry is a diversity and inclusions expert, and she approaches inclusion from a communication perspective and through an intercultural lens. Aart is a social psychologist and specialized in cultural change processes and generational diversity. Together, they are diversity.
That's true.
Yes, good. Before we dive into the topic, I would like to give my co-host, Dr. Tatiana Rowson, the floor so she can share a bit more about her background and why this topic is really special to her. And she will hand the conversation to Audry and Aart.
Great.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening. Hello, Ingun. Thank you again for starting us so well. I'm a psychologist by training, and I'm a researcher interested in midlife and beyond. So my area pretty much looks into understanding what over 50s are doing, what they want, how they can live happier and longer lives, and above all, how they can get together and engage with other generations and make the most of society as a whole. So as Ingun, as you're saying, this topic today, it's really close to my heart, and I'm super thrilled to have our guests to talk about their experiences and to share with us some insights of how to bring generations together at work. Because the more integrated, the more we all going to benefit. So without further ado, I would like to pass the mic and invite our guests in. Audry, would you like to start?
Well, I would love to start, but in our field, we're working together as partners, and Aart is the intergenerational expert. So I give the word to him first, so he can give his perspective, and then we will move to me. We already had two ladies speaking, so Aart, I'll give the floor to you first, and I will close the introduction up then.
Diversity and inclusion, huh?
Yes.
Well, talking about generations, there is a lot of misunderstanding what the differences are between generations, because you have impact of your phase of life and impact of your own generation, so to say. And what I discovered already in the 90s was that every 15 years, a new generation is entering a company, and they bring with them a new social processes, because social process, way of leading, way of acting with diversity, way of communication, way of decision making, etc., has an expiry date. Maybe you never thought about it. And if the expiry date is there, it is becoming destructive for organizations, for the world, for people, and you can see that. But when you are acting for 20 years or 30 years, the same, having the same kind of meetings, for instance, you do not notice that the expiry date is there. But when the younger generation is walking in, they see it immediately. And when you are open for that, well, you can together find what is out of date and what needs an update, so to say. And the interesting point is that what are those updates coming from? And in that case, the 50+ group is very interesting because many of them are parents of the millennials. And right now, millennials are walking into companies. And because the updates are made, so to say, in the interaction between parents and children. The Dutch parents, because I have a lot of it done in the Netherlands, are raising the children at certain points in a different way than they are raised. For instance, their interaction with the parents was a kind of closed. And we say that was their time. No, we created that in that time, so to say. In the interaction between those parents and their children of the millennial generation is, for instance, open. That's a really turnaround in terms of cultural patterns and behavior. So, and I could mention on a couple of things. So they want to find out what are the updates that the younger generation is bringing into company. I have sessions with millennials and I have sessions with the parents to find out what did you change in upbringing your children and what is, so to say, our fresh social patterns, which companies and people need to stay fresh, to stay youthful, to keep their company or their team up to time. And what I discovered with Audrey, that inclusive cooperation and the ingredients to stimulate that are the same when you want to use the generational diversity. You want to use the power of generational diversity. So that's an interesting point. And now I give the turn to you.
I get the floor now.
You get the floor completely.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having us, because this is an important topic to discuss. Any topic that is related to diversity and inclusion is valuable. And so is this one also. My approach in diversity, equity, and inclusion is from managing cultural diversity, but also inclusive communication. And from that perspective, I say the path that we want to reach at the end is not multi-generational, but we want to reach intergenerational, meaning that all those generations work together well to find solutions. When people come in young, they have a certain way of viewing the workplace and viewing people that are from an older generation. And the older generation has a way of viewing the younger generation. But that doesn't, but you need to take everything in perspective, because I always say, approach it from a holistic point of view, in which you help everyone. And inclusive communication plays a really important role in it. Our interactions with each other to make sure that everything works well in the workplace. And as Aart mentioned earlier, the ingredients mostly are the same, because what you want to reach is equity and equality at the end, right? You want to reach equality, that's the main goal. And equity, what everyone wants for themselves. And there is a way to do this. And I believe I will answer it through the questions that you're going to ask later on. But that is my approach, inclusive communication to reach diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workforce, also from an intergenerational point of view. As Ingun earlier said, I perceive from intercultural perspective, but also intergenerational. We need to reach and work together, find solutions together.
And you learn it when you do it.
Exactly.
You cannot learn it from the book. You can get something from the book, but you have to do it to learn it. And you will discover that you have biases and you have, you hold it back to self. Sometimes you're thinking in hierarchy, etc. So it's we need to go into direction just for yourself and for the world.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you dived immediately into the subject, so it's good.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Not too much background, but I really would love to hear why did you as a person, you personally, why you feel that this is so important to address. And of course, from the Wize Move Society, we feel that is all these aspects that count, but why is it so important to really focus also on that specifically on that 50+ generation? From your background, is it something that you feel passionate about?
I feel passionate about any topic that is related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Let's put that first. And we achieve inclusion by involving everyone from every generation, also from the older generation. We need to take into perspective when we look from a European point of view, and I'm speaking now mostly from the Dutch perspective. I cannot speak for other perspectives, right? I live in the Netherlands. I speak to other people who live in other countries, and they might resonate with what I'm going to say right now. But seeing it from the Dutch perspective, I say we are an aging society. We're moving to, and it's aging more and more and more every year. And we are now coming to issues related to the aging workforce that is leaving the companies. And some of them are leaving by force, not by will. Let's start to explain that first, because the company or the organization says you have reached a certain age, you might no longer be welcome, because we want to invite a younger generation. There can be many motives that they have for it, but I have the feeling that many people who are from an older generation, they do not want to leave the organization per se. They do still want to they still want to develop themselves. They want to keep working, but the investments in them are not there because they are no longer perhaps perceived as an asset. There's wisdom there. There is a lot of wisdom there. There is a lot of knowledge there. You need to use that knowledge and wisdom. Keep them, cherish them, work with them. They also hold solutions. And that's why it's important for me. And I say we need to involve everyone, also the older generation, if we want to reach inclusion. I have many more motives, many more reasons behind it, but this is one of the most important ones that I have right now. You need to involve everyone, also the older generation, and not write them off as not being an asset. They are a major asset company.
Of course. I think 50+ today, then you are in the power of your life. That's completely different from 50+ people 30, 40 years ago. I would say that the future, economical and social and ecological, depend on the youthfulness of the 50+ group, which is growing pretty fast. Next 20 years, that group is growing. And there are different misunderstandings. The youngest group, 20+, need the feedback from seniors to find their way. They want freedom to find a way, but that only can be successful when senior people are giving them feedback with their wisdom. And that sounds so simple, but sometimes 50+ people think, well, they are young, they find a way themselves. That's not true at all. Not true at all. The other way around, when you are 50+, you need fresh eyes to as a mirror to see what you are repeating and is taking your energy away. So when you want to stay youthful, you have to leave that behind. So you need also the younger group to wake up, so to say. and put your autopilot system off and rethink what you really want to do, for instance, etc., etc. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Yes, it makes sense. Yes. Tatiana, you're a researcher and scientist, and I know you've been doing a lot of research on this age group. So love to hear your questions, of course, your feedback, what do you think?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for introducing the topic so well. I think one thing that struck me, that what you're bringing here is that idea of forced retirement or forced exit of an older generation as a standard, or as something that hasn't been thought through, and particularly the idea that Audry mentioned, the multi-generation versus intergeneration, and the dialogue to come up with something different, not just a plaster here or a plaster there that will try to fix the bends, but actually reinventing the way that we can engage and work together and relate to one another. And I think that building on the research, what the research is seeing there, that's not working. We've been talking about ageism and integration, intergeneration for many, many years, but the data still shows that over 50s leaving the workforce. COVID was a good incident or disruption that showed that, but younger people are struggling to get into work, starting their working lives. Again, having COVID there was a big impact, at least here in the UK, the figures really show that. So that there's an illustration that whatever actions we've been making up to this point are having a marginal effect in bringing different age groups together and working together in the diversity level that we need to prosper society and to prosper individuals as well. So my question for you, because I know you work with companies, what do you see there now? What are the things you see people facing in industry and in companies you talk to?
Well, I think questions like how can we be attractive for the younger generation are there, of course, but also how can we keep the older generation on board? Because the amount of people who are going to work in the Netherlands is going down. So it's really coming close. So I see the questions they ask me are really changing. First of all, they want to become aware of the differences, and now the question is more: how can we let them work together in a way that is profitable for both sides? You know, experience is important, and freshness is important, fresh insight and life experience. So can you bring that together in a way that is energizing both sides? Is really a key question right at this moment. It is closer than ever. I did my PhD between 2000 and 2007. I could find 5 companies to do my research with, and now they are, my agenda is packed. So 2019 was my busiest year so far. So it's coming very close. Companies need to pay attention to the social part of the company, because many of them are focusing on, you know, how you say that, technical development, but the social part is a kind of left behind a little bit. But if the social part of your company is not up to date, so to say, then all things goes wrong on the technical level too. If decision making is out of date, you cannot find out what are the newest devices to improve your work force, so to say. So, and I find a lot of out of date social processes in many companies I've been in the Netherlands. And so we need the power of generations, the experience of the older ones to support the younger ones, to re-invite the way we cooperate, we decide, we lead, etc., etc. Really, in my opinion, there's really a turnaround going on, and that is evolution. That is an evolutionary process. It's kind of fade out and fade in process.
Yeah.
From the interaction point of view, so when it comes to inclusive communication, because I need to make a small correction there. Not everyone is forced out of the company when they reach a certain age. We need also to take into consideration that you have certain professions that don't give you the option because of physical or mental reasons, you have to stop working, right? But there are groups that do not want to, they don't want to retire. So that first of all, as a correction there. And
can I add something to that?
Yes, you can.
For 15 years ago, one of the 10 60 plus people want to stay at work. Right now, it's 4 on 10 people who want to stay at work. They do not want to work as they did, but they want to be flexible, being their own boss, you know, etc., etc. But they really want to stay involved in companies to make their life sensible, so to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I'm one of them.
Exactly.
Come on, Aart. You're not in that generation that should be retiring now.
So thank you very much for adding that, because that's the interaction that they're not having in the workplace. They are not. First of all, they do not start thinking about the fact that we have an employee here, and it's perhaps in 5 years, 3 years, this employee might leave us, because according to the Dutch law, they have the right to retire, and they will retire, and we will let them retire, and we will start looking for someone else right now. They do not have the conversation, can we have a sit and discuss whether you want to retire, or we want to take a sabbatical and come back. And when you come back, would you like to proceed flexible? Would you like to proceed as a mentor? Would you like to proceed as a coach? Because we have young people coming in, and they need a mentor, they need a coach, they need someone. They don't have those discussions. Having those discussions would be it would be a new way of approaching retirement. You're going to retire, someone of HR or anyone else in the company, your manager or who else in the company, having a seat with you and discussing what is it actually that you really want. Do you want to stay? If yes, how can we do this? Right? Those conversations, they are not having those conversations. The conversations that they're having is, there is an exit coming up and you will be leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and we are going to have those conversations. So that's good. Thank you for adding that. Deborah is Mary Jane. I see that you're also. Deborah was first. You have a question. Welcome, Deborah. Deborah is one of our trainers, yoga teacher from Vancouver, Canada, Victoria, actually Vancouver Island. Great that you join us. Please ask your question.
Well, can I get a comment?
Yes.
I love what you're saying, and I don't know if anybody has seen the Netflix movie The Chair. This is it's a Netflix movie called The Chair, and it's about a woman who becomes a chair of the English department, and she's older. And so there's younger people. And so it is just what you're talking about is you see the extremes of one side versus the other, and how the older generation in this particular depiction is really set in their ways and can't grasp what is happening to them and their future is on the line. And so it's very interesting how it evolves and transfers. And basically for me, it came down to, well, I'm watching how people can be so attached to the way of thinking that it's detrimental to their own self and to everybody else. And through understanding how to experience a more flexible, resilient way of thinking, and that requires a nervous system that can allow more in. And I guess that's where I come in terms of the yoga, is being able to build a nervous system that can be, instead of tight and restricted, is more open to hear and create and enliven and become you're saying it's interdependent with each other. We need each other so much right now, but we're seeing all this diversity just happen in spreading everybody. So it is a beautiful time for everybody to recognize this is happening, so it sheds the light on all that's going on. So I just love what you're saying. It's just so perfect timing.
Thank you, Deborah. I've seen the chair. Yeah, absolutely. It was really special to see how they were hanging on to their old ways of thinking. Yeah. I hear mindset also. I hear consciousness. I hear, there's so many interdependence. Absolutely. Mary Jane, love to hear your.
Well, a couple of things that resonated with me with what Audrey and Aart have shared, but about the conversations that are not taking place. And I wrote down when you first mentioned that earlier in the conversation, Audrey, that just ask us what we need, what we would like to have. There's so many assumptions that are being made about our futures as a 50+ generation. But employers are not asking those questions. They're not having those conversations about what do you want, what does it look like for you in the coming 5 years? That's those sort of things. And then it also made me think and triggered again, and especially in also this last example, Deborah, that you've given, but how fixed and set in our ways that we can be, that fixed mindset. And I remember my sister saying to me, who's 70 and still working full time, she's freelance, but works full time. And she said, if I had $1, she lives in the US, if I had $1 for every time I've heard, but that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
So that fresh perspective, yeah, so you should be rich. And Aart, that fresh perspective that you were, that you crusade for, that we need in that interconnectedness for the generations. It's just we do a lot of this to ourselves. We're doing a lot of this to ourselves by staying so rigid, by staying so fixed, and we don't need to be. So I'll go into my topic that you led into, Deborah, but is not my topic, but one that I'm fascinated with, the fact that no matter what our age is, we can learn, we can develop the qualities that you were sharing, Deborah, about being open and not having to be polarized, learning to have this interconnection. This is something that we can learn. Our brains will develop this. So yeah, obviously a topic that resonates deeply. Yeah.
It's very important. Yeah. Okay. Francis, did you want? Okay.
Yeah, let Franz come in, and then I will jump in.
Yes. So Francis is one of our members from the Wize Move Society and lives in South Africa. So we're very diverse, very international group today.
One of the things I'm hearing is about boxing the whole generation into one box. One way we had to fight in South Africa for the last 25 years racism is by not looking at everybody from one lens. So there's psychometric testing, there's training. So if you're weak in one area, culturally weak in one area, the companies will introduce a course. So when we look at the older generation, that is also a stereotype. And by putting everybody in one box, it's not solving the problem. Are there any tests, psychometric tests or any kind of test that you can put older people through so you can see Not everybody's going to be on the same level or on the same path. They have different interests and so on. And are there any training programs that they're introducing for the older generation to fill in the gaps, to, you know, to look at things differently? You know, everybody gets trained. I mean, people come out of university and they train them. Training doesn't mean that you lack something. It just means that we want to bring you into the same sort of culture of the company. But I don't see that happening. I don't like the word wisdom, because wisdom sets me up for failure. I'm not God. I'm just a human being. I may know a few things in some areas, but I may not know things in other areas. Young people who look at me and think I'm wise are actually setting me up for failure. So I may be more experienced in certain areas, but not in every area. So I would like to be categorized in some sort of way. I don't know if there are any tests for that. That's the question I was going to ask, in a long way.
Okay, let me first go back to Tatiana.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Francis.
I like it. I like the point you made about putting everyone in the same pot. It's a very, very important one. So thank you for bringing that to the front of our minds, because I think that's important. One thing that I thought of bringing to the conversation is the idea of moving jobs sideways after reaching a certain level of seniority. Because one of the things I found with my research, and picking on what Mary Jane said as well, of growth mindset and Deborah's on openness, I found several people that were quite happy to move around the organization and find a different role for a different stage of life that worked for them and worked for the organization. But I did come across as well certain people that didn't want to lose that status. So it was either all or nothing. Either I'm still that person, that salary, that grade, or I don't want to get up in the morning to come here. I will do something else. So is there something of a mindset, Audrey and Aart, that you find that you need to discuss with people themselves as well, in terms of accepting that a career is not climbing a mountain, but is maybe moving around as well, as you get older?
Yes, and first of all, I would like to say something first about what Francis just mentioned, and it's about the word wisdom, right? Wisdom doesn't mean that you know everything. Wisdom means that you're able to transfer knowledge to other people in a way that they understand it and that they can do something with it. So wisdom doesn't mean I am everything and I know everything. At least that is my perception of wisdom. Because I've conducted research, and it was on primary schools. It was about inclusive education in primary schools in the Netherlands. And one of the things that I discovered is that you have teachers who have been to, who had their education in becoming a teacher, but they do not know how to transfer the knowledge that they have gained to students. They don't know how to do it in a way that the students grasp what they're trying to teach them. So wisdom is not about knowing everything. Wisdom is about what knowledge that you have to transmit or transfer it to someone else in a way that that person understands and that person can work with it in whatever field. And when we talk about the development, to come to what you were saying. So Francis, perhaps you would like to discuss that topic further later, but to come to answer your question, Tatiana, there's something that we need to understand is also the mindset of development. Development is an intrinsic, the best way to say it, is something that you want to achieve for yourself intrinsically. And it can be that you perceive it as, I have such a high mountain to go, and if I cannot go over a certain profession or certain knowledge, certain education, then that doesn't count anymore for me. But that's not what development is about. Development is intrinsic, it's for yourself, because you're doing it for yourself. And at the end, you have the choice to spread it to others, the knowledge that you gain. So there are people, of course, who perceive it as, if I cannot do my work at a certain level, if I cannot do it in such a way, I don't want to do it anymore. Of course, you do not have that only with an older generation, you have it also with younger generations. They have a specific target that they want to reach in life, a specific outcome or mindset that they have. I have to reach this because my community is expecting it. And most of the time it's the expectation of the community and not so much of the person itself. If I go and work less, if I go and work under my educational level, what will my communication say? It's a mindset. It's not coming from themselves, because if their community would say, oh, so you decided to reschool yourself and you're now on a lower level and you're liking it. Oh, that's great. Why not? You're going to do something totally different. That's so great. The community decides your mindset. Mm-hmm. We co-create our society. We co-create mindset. I have been educated and I have a higher education. I have a master's degree. If my environment is telling me you're so well educated and now you're going to do work that is under your grade, why are you going to do that? Then I might get a feeling of, oh wow, this doesn't feel so good, because there are certain expectations of my community for me to do certain things. It's the mindset. It's what Deborah already said, Mary Jane said it, Francis said it, all of you said it. It's the mindset. And the environment that you're living in, the community that you're living in, that is feeding certain mindsets. That's my personal perspective of perceiving it. I'm not sure how Aart looks at it, but the community helps you to create certain mindsets.
Well, a couple of things are coming up in me. For instance, I did experiments with wise people from in the 50s and 60s and asked them to talk about the wisdom while there were 10 young people in the 20s around. And I could see on the young people when they came close to the wisdom, yes or no, because that's a kind of chemical thing. And that wisdom was not kind of things of extreme. No one guy said, well, I did negotiations all over the world. And when you do negotiation, you need to make a lot of, what is ruzie maken?
Arguments.
You mean arguments. Why? Well, then things which are on the table are coming over the table. So, and the wisdom was in the field that for the older people were so normal to do that they think, well, this is not wisdom. This is how I do my life. But when you do something for 20 or 30 years, it doesn't matter what it is, you build wisdom on that field. And it is really fantastic how the ears of the youngsters are, going like that when he came close to the business. But it was not easy for many of them to talk about the wisdom because they were holding back themselves a little bit. So that was really interesting. But when the youngsters were reacting to that wisdom, he got touched. It's touching you when youngsters are open up for you because they see something what is wisdom. It's giving a really great interaction. That's one thing. The other thing is in the generation that is now 50 plus, I always ask them to make a top 5 together. What is raising your energy at work? Mm-hmm. And then I asked managers and things to support that system, because I noticed that too many of them are just doing the work and forget that doing what is energizing you, bring forward your youthfulness, and is loading your own battery. So that loading your own battery is really an issue in the Netherlands, mm-hmm. because we need 60 and 70 plus people to work with passion as long as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, love this. Really interesting. Also the wisdom part. You know, for me, it's always a compliment. If I use the word wisdom, really a compliment. So, Francis, if I use it for you, it's absolutely a compliment. It is a knowledge and it is life experience added to that. You know, that you really, there's more to you that has done just learning something.
It is something, and it is something specific. Not wise in everything. It's something specific, your wisdom.
Yeah. I would like to go back to the back to the topic of today, and to work and thrive in that intergenerational team. Now you have all these you have all these different generations in one team, and we were just talking before this session. Also, it is not only about, you know, diversity and inclusion. It's not only about age. It's also about gender. It's also about sexual orientation. It's also about the color of your skin. There are so many things included in diversity and inclusion, but age is one of them. And this is going to be bigger and bigger. Now you have this very diverse team, bringing all these people together. How are you going to accomplish that they really respect each other for the qualities that they bring, the talents that they bring, and really that this team is thriving and is really contributing to the success of an organization? How does that work in your perspective?
Well, first of all, the first thing that you need to make sure that you have in such a team is psychological safety.
Mm-hmm.
And to create a space where people have the feeling that they can express themselves. That's really important. If there is no psychological safety, and psychological safety doesn't matter what type of team you have. It can be a team of only women, it can be a team of only men, but when they have the feeling that they can speak their minds, they will be able to contribute more. They will be able to say honestly what they think, because they feel free to discuss topics that are close to their hearts. They feel free to discuss, to bring their creativity in the room. But you need to create psychological safety first and to show that everyone inside this group matters. Everyone is here because everyone has been chosen to be here. You, as an organization, you hire these people. You made them sign, you didn't make them, they choose to sign a contract with you. Mm-hmm. So when they choose to sign that contract with you, they actually are saying, I'm here to contribute. And as an organization, you're saying, I'm here to give you a safer space to do your work, to help you in this. And interaction plays a really important role, because that's why I also, I always say communication is everything and everything is communication. It's the way you communicate something. Mm-hmm. If you want someone to bring their knowledge or their wisdom to the table, their creative ideas, their creative thoughts, you need to communicate with them in a way that they feel welcomed to bring everything that they have to say in the space. Mm-hmm. So it's the way you communicate, your interactions.
And the intention, I think, Audrey, with which you communicate.
Exactly.
That you're open, that you're curious, that it's not in a judgmental way.
Exactly. The intention is good, but most important is the impact. You're taking also accountability for the way you communicate with other people. So the intention is good. Explain your intention. Why am I bringing this to the table? Explain why you are doing certain things so that people understand your intent. Because if you just speak and the intent is left out, the impact you might get an impact that is not the way you wanted it to be. So intent is really important, but the impact of your intent is more important than the intent itself, right? Mm-hmm. Did that make sense? It's even more important than the intent itself. The impact, what do I want to achieve with what I'm going to say right now? That's even more important than the intent, the end results that you have that you want to achieve. So it's the way you say certain things, the words that you use to say whatever it is that you want to say, the tone of voice that you bring to the table. If I am going to talk to a person that is from an older generation in a, I'm not sure what the right word is, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it well, because English is not my native language, but in a disrespectful manner, then people, and no matter what generation it is, people close up. They close up, or they feel attacked, and they start to be defensive, right? Mm-hmm. That means that the space is not safe. Mm-hmm. The space is not safe enough to bring yourself the best that you wanted to bring to the table in the room. The space is not safe enough to bring it.
Mm. I think there's a comment from Francis, and that fits maybe here in how do you deal with the comment that your knowledge is old school? Wow, if that is a safe space.
Well, it is a safe space if you are not shaming about that or something like that. It's normal that when you are in your 50s or 60s, that some things you do are old school things. But because I found what is sharing in the field of what is giving most of the energy at work. So if I ask a generation to make a top 5, I videotape that and show to the other generation, they know what's energizing the generation which is now in the 50s, and they can support it. On the other way around, I can ask the youngest generation to make the top 5, and I ask the senior generation to support that. Then you know where the differences are. Yeah. And the differences of generations I play a key role in the evolution of behavior. I could say that most crises are created by out-of-date behavior, so to say. Mm-hmm. It is repeated too long, so to say. To wake up and revitalize yourself is also profitable for the older generation. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that is the most important transfer from the youngest to the older generation, and experience, support, and is what you can give back to the younger generation. They are in essence effects of the life phase, so to say. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, the generation who is now in the 50s is the next generation of seniors. So in terms of healthcare, that needs another healthcare, so to say, in support of elderly people. Am I clear what I'm saying? Or?
Yes, but I would like to add something to the comment that Francis made. Your knowledge is old school. Francis, at the moment that someone says that, your reaction to what that person says, and that comes back to what Mary Jane was saying, decides the direction of what this conversation is going to be. You can choose to feel offended, or you can choose to be curious.
That's true. Yeah.
You decide, because a person can just sit and blurt out, yeah, that's old school, whatever, sit there and you decide which way this conversation is going to be by asking that person, can you please enlighten me? Can you please tell me more? Why do you believe it's old school?
Mm-hmm. Because old school itself doesn't say anything.
Exactly.
What is it about? And having the conversation about that thing, that's really important. Mm-hmm. Really important.
Exactly. What about this is old school? Tell me more. And you're creating a safe space for that person to tell you more. At the same time, you're gaining knowledge. I always say communication is everything, and everything is communication, and I keep saying it, and I'm saying it now again. You decide which direction this conversation is going to go to. You decide whether it stays safe. You decide if you become offended. So stay curious. Why do you say this thing? What knowledge do you have that I don't have yet? Because you're not outdated. That's not old school. You just do not have that knowledge that that particular person already has. And if that person is in a space to explain it to you in a way that you understand it and can communicate it again to someone else to give that other person knowledge, you have then practice wisdom. If it makes sense to you.
Audrey, that's wonderful. I love it. I love communication is everything, and everything is communication. That's
Yes.
that's really, really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have another question for you. I think that this conversation today is really wonderful, and I'm sure everyone listening and everyone that will come to listen later, it's really going to benefit of all the points you two are bringing to the conversation. Now, when it comes to a company, it's far easier to have this one-to-one conversation that we help people to manage themselves. But how do we get companies to change as a collective their mindset and to communicate better, so these conversations can be advantageous for all groups? I won't say even different generational age groups, I say for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, and it's not directed at anyone in particular.
It's not an idea. It is something what companies need to survive, because they want to be attractive for young people and for the elderly people. They need everybody. So then the question arises: how can be attractive for the younger generation and the older generation? And you can easily find out how you can do that, because when I ask the older generation to make a top 5, what's energizing them, you support it. You are becoming attractive for the older generation, and their own battery is loading all the time. So when they are 68 or 70, they still feel young because they're loading their battery all the time. It's practice. So the real because the question started 20 years ago, but that was about awareness. What are the differences? And now the question is, how can we act with the difference in a way which is profitable for all generations? So that question is really interesting to do that. I have the police force, 6 healthcare companies, another healthcare company. So it's really moving on, so to say. Can you do you remember the Buena Vista Social Club? Buena Vista Social Club? Buena Vista Social Club?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the video. They are in the 70s and 90s. They are so vivid. So old is not the same as old fashions of repeating out of date patterns. That's not the same thing at all. Well,
yeah, very interesting conversation, and I think
I would like to add something, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, Mary Jane, you will be next. Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I just want to repeat, Audrey, for you, the psychosocial safety is something that's imperative for organizations. If these conversations are going to take place, you're so bang on with that point. So
yes, the psychological safety. But I wanted to answer what Tatiana was asking. What do you say to organizations who believe that that they feel that people at a certain age should leave the company? I would ask those companies, why did you sign a contract with this person to start with? This contract was a win-win situation. A win-win situation in I invest in you, you invest in me. You give me your time and I get money. That's how simple it is, because I need to pay my bills. But it's even more than that. At the moment that you invest in someone, you are training them, you are coaching them. They gain so much knowledge. The moment that you hire them till the day that they are going to leave your company, they are packed with knowledge, packed. And I call it knowledge this time and not wisdom. They are packed with knowledge. They can transfer it into wisdom when they transfer it to someone else. Keeping someone in your company, I'm not going to say because it's going to make you money. It's because you're going to keep your investment. You already invested in that person. You did not invest in that person to let that person go. And most of those companies, they know how much they have invested in those people. They know it. If I let this person go, I need to start reinvesting in someone else from the beginning, because that person is going to come in perhaps with zero knowledge. Perhaps that person is going to come in with knowledge that needs to be, I'm not sure if that's the right word, augmented, or I need to, that for the industry that I'm in, the organization that I have, I need to give that person more knowledge. I need to give that person more to make sure that that person can do his or her work well. So you are guaranteeing your organization that they keep knowledge, and transfer it into wisdom. They keep it. It's an investment. You are safeguarding your investment. I know many companies or many people who work in diversity and inclusion, they say, yeah, if you invest in diversity and inclusion, it will help you to make money. You will make money. No, if you keep people of an older generation, you keep your investment. If any person that you keep, and it's not per se for the older generation, any person that you can commit to your company and stay with your company, you are safeguarding your investment. That's how simple I look at it.
Can I add something to it? I think I'm working often with actors. I cooperate generation theater, and psychological safety is, in my opinion, a question. It's not. It's there, or it is not there. Now, if it is not there, the question is how can we create it? And with actors, you can exactly show how you can create psychological safety. And one of the interesting things is it's becoming unsafe when somebody is drawing it or herself back, so to say. And it's becoming safe in you if you share what's going on in yourself. But that makes it also difficult because then the differences are coming up on the table. And you really need the team not to choose he is right or she is right, no, to choose he is right and she is right. And then you need creativity to come to a solution. And then people feel respect. I think it's really, but we are not really good at it. But the willingness to create inclusive teams is growing pretty fast because everyone wants to cooperate. You know, all minorities want to be involved. And that needs a complete new way of cooperating. And hierarchy is from the last century. It's gone. Yeah, it's something like there, but it doesn't work at all. Because hierarchy means that somebody is deciding for the others what is going to happen, while everybody wants to be involved in decision making. I say it's simple, and the words are simple, but to act that way, well, that's a challenge. And if it was good right at the moment, we didn't have work at all. So it's not really it's going in a good direction, and that creates work for us, isn't it?
It does.
From us. Yeah.
That's good. And you know, this is a very interesting conversation, and thank you for your contribution now, Audry and Aart. Tatiana, did that answer your question?
Oh, that's just the beginning. I feel like we need to get you again. That was not enough time.
Yeah,
that was fantastic. Thank you for sharing so many interesting points with us and with our audience, and a lot of food for thought there. And yes, that's definitely, we could carry on the conversation for longer. Thank you.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, it's absolutely how I feel. You know, it's just starting here. This is not. It's only the beginning. And what you're perfectly right. You know, this is where it creates a lot of work as well. So, and that's good for us, and we love to be involved in that part. So, yes, I want to thank each and everyone who has been here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And again, Francis, it's a compliment for sharing your wisdom about this topic. And I do believe that this is only the start of something that will be getting a lot more attention, because we just have to pay attention. The people themselves, the 50+ generation, the wise generation, as we call them, but also, yes, the organizations that are employing these groups. So really fantastic. Thank you very much. For those who are watching, this was again a glimpse of what is happening at the Wize Move Society, because yes, bringing in all these diverse, these people with diverse backgrounds, it is always the diverser the teams, the more rich the conversations and the more creative the solutions. So that is also what Wize Move Society is all about. For those who are not yet members, just come on board, because there's so much happening there, and we really want to be part of the future, and especially future of this diversity inclusion challenges. So thank you very much, and we'll see you all soon.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Have a good evening or morning or day or whatever. Bye-bye.
Bye. And thank you for having us.